Okay, guys, so for part 2 of this recording, which is page 4 of 1.6, I would like for you guys to actually sort of organize your own jigsaw. So I know I'm not here, but after everybody has finished the first video, which should be about the same time, I want you to, as a table group, decide who is going to do which problem. Okay, so if you have only 3 members at your group, then you're going to obviously need to double up. But if you have 7 or 8, then everybody gets to do one. So try one of these using the information that we kind of put together on the front side. Try one of these, A, B, C, D, E, F, or I, okay, and then locate somebody else in the classroom, compare your work, and see if you guys can come to a decision. And hopefully you come up with the correct solution. So what I want you to do is, now that you've heard the instructions, I want you to pause the video in just a moment. When I say pause, find somebody, work out your problem, find somebody in the classroom, and then continue watching the video to see if you did get the correct solution after all. Okay, and then at that point, you should be good to finish the rest either on your own or watch the video and fill in as you go, or just compare your work afterwards. All right, so pause. Did you pause? Okay, so when you click play, you might have some silence if you pause right away, but here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start from the top. So here's letter A. We have g of h of x. Now that means that we are using the h function and plugging that entire equation into the g function, right? So g of h of x is going to be equal to 1 minus 2 times 3 halves x minus 2. All right. So that means we're distributing the negative 2 into both terms in the parentheses. So we're going to end up with 1 minus 3x plus 4, which turns into negative 3x plus 5. All right. Now next we need to find an equation for g of f of x. So we're plugging f of x into g of x. So really we have 1 minus 2 times negative x squared plus 3x minus 5. And that is equal to 1 plus 2x squared minus 6x plus 10, which is just 2x squared minus 6x plus 11. All right. Letter C, f of g of x really just means that we are plugging the g function into the f function. So really I'm going to end up with negative, okay, so look at f. Instead of x squared, we have 1 minus 2x squared, okay, plus 3 times 1 minus 2x minus 5. Now again, 1 minus 2x squared is just this. It's 1 minus 2x times 1 minus 2x. Okay, so if you have to draw it out to visualize it, then so be it. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times negative 2x is negative 2x, negative 2x times 1 is negative 2x, so together that's negative 4x, and negative 2x times negative 2x is positive 4x squared. So that whole thing is going to be negative 1 minus 4x plus 4x squared. All right, and then we have plus 3 minus 6x minus 5. So really that's negative 1 plus 4x minus 4x squared plus 3 minus 6x minus 5. Combine like terms and put your highest degree term first, because that is what makes most mathematical sense. It's what looks prettiest. So we have negative 4x squared, and then 4x minus 6x gives me a negative 2x. Negative 1 plus 3 minus 5 gives me, well, negative 1 plus 3 is positive 2, and 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So negative 4x squared minus 2x minus 3 is the solution there. Next, we need to find an equation for p of g of x. Okay, so we're plugging g of x into the p function. So really that's just going to look like 1 minus 2x plus 2 over 1 minus 2x minus 3. So that turns into 1 plus 2 is 3, and that's negative 2x plus 3 over negative 2x, and then 1 minus 3 is actually minus 2, so negative 2x minus 2. So we have negative 2x plus 3 over negative 2x minus 2. Or, in case you weren't aware, guys, because we notice that there's actually a negative situation happening here, we can kind of factor that negative out, and let's just see what that looks like. If we factor a negative out of the top, then we end up getting negative quantity 2x minus 3, right? Over, if we factor a negative out of the bottom, we get negative quantity 2x plus 2. Well, a negative over a negative, really that's kind of like negative 1 over negative 1. That's just 1. So another alternate solution could look like 2x minus 3 over 2x plus 2. Okay, so either version would be fine. Okay, next we now need to do some maybe more advanced algebra than we've seen so far, but it's really not too bad. We're going to multiply negative 6x by h of x and then subtract f of x. Okay, so really we have negative 6x. I'm going to use brackets like they did just to keep track of everything. We have negative 6x times 3 halves x minus 2. If we look back up here at our h function, 3 halves x minus 2. And then minus f of x, which is going to look like minus parentheses negative x squared plus 3x minus 5. Close the parentheses and close the brackets. Okay, so now we have some work to do, right? Well, this is going to simply turn into negative 6x times 3 halves x. If I distribute the negative 6x into both terms, that's my first term. And then minus 2 times negative 6x by distributing the negative 6x into the second term as well. Okay, so we have minus 2 times negative 6x. Now, I'm going to distribute the negative sign into every term in f of x. So really that's going to turn into plus x squared minus 3x plus 5. Close the brackets, and we're ready to move on. Okay, and that is going to be equal to, now, negative 6x times 3 halves x. Again, the 6 and the 2 can reduce a little bit. That turns into 3, that turns into 1. So really I just have negative 9x squared. Is that okay? Negative 3 times 3, x times x. So negative 9x squared plus 12x plus x squared minus 3x plus 5. Okay, combine like terms and we're done. We have negative 9x squared plus 1x squared is negative 8x squared. 12x minus 3x is plus 9x. And then we have a 5 left as our constant term. Okay, I hope that wasn't too bad. Next one is letter F. This is f times g of x. Really, that's just f of x times g of x. That's all we really have to do. F of x times g of x. Okay, so f of x, if you look above, is negative x squared plus 3x minus 5. And we are multiplying that by g of x, which is 1 minus 2x. That's all we're doing. Okay, so for this one, I am going to use a generic rectangle because to me, it makes things organized and neat. All right, so we have my binomial on the left, 1 minus 2x, and the trinomial up top, negative x squared plus 3x minus 5. 1 times negative x squared is negative x squared. 1 times 3x, 1 times negative 5. And then negative 2x times negative x squared is going to be 2x cubed. Negative 2x times 3x is negative 6x squared. Negative 2x times negative 5 is positive 10x. That's a 10 right there. Okay, combine like terms. We notice that we have a 2x cubed by itself. However, negative x squared and negative 6x squared turns into negative 7x squared. 3x and 10x turns into positive 13x. And then we have a negative 5 left over as our constant. Okay, so we have 2x cubed minus 7x squared plus 13x minus 5. That is letter F. And then lastly, we have letter I. Okay, so if you were looking for letter I, you had to come this far in the video. Or if you were just watching to see all of them, here it is. We're trying to find for what values of x, f is equal to g. So really all we have to do is set f equal to g. Okay, so we're using the same equations as we used for letter f, the same functions, I should say. We're going to take negative x squared plus 3x minus 5 and set that equal to 1 minus 2x. And that will tell us at what values of x the two functions are equal to one another. All right, so we've talked about this a number of times now. Whenever we see degree 2, we figure it's a quadratic that is hopefully factorable, right? So we try and set one side equal to 0 and factor. So now we get negative x squared. I'm going to have a 3x here, but I'm also going to add that 2x, so I get plus 5x. And we have negative 5, and I'm going to subtract that 1, so that's going to turn into negative 6 is equal to 0. I paused because I didn't want to deal with the darkness. So here we go. Negative x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. We're close to being able to factor. However, that negative kind of bugs me, so I'm going to take it out. So we have negative quantity x squared minus 5x plus 6 is equal to 0. And it turns out we can actually ignore that negative sign altogether because this side is equal to 0. If we were to divide by both sides by negative 1, 0 divided by negative 1 is still 0. So really, this is just x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. And that's factorable, right? Using the guess and check method, we see that we have x and x as our first terms. The only way that we're going to get a positive constant and a negative middle term is if both signs are negative, right? And the factors of 6 that add up to negative 5 are going to be 3 and 2. All right, so x minus 3 times x minus 2 equals 0 is what we're left with, which means if we set both of those equal to 0 and solve, we get x equals 3 and x equals 2. All right, and that is it, everybody. We have letters A through I using our jigsaw activity, hopefully. Hopefully you did that and you tried. And here are the answers. All right. I hope that all was crystal clear. And if not, feel free to email me. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And I look forward to seeing you later on this week. All right, guys. Have a great rest of the day.